Got to mention quickly the gun guys in studio with us. Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson for Washington Street Pawn. And we're up to 66. Bill Colley handling the phones on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. You may want to call after this next segment. Todd actually, he sent me a note earlier this week, and it's gotten a lot of attention because you cannot separate the LDS Church from America and patriotism. You think about their involvement for decades with the Boy Scouts, and it is probably you have a church developed really on the principles of the Constitution of the United States of America.
Oh yeah,
and yet there's a decision, I guess, being made that the LDS Church does not want firearms in its churches.
Well, yeah, it started out earlier in the year. Last year, they came out and said they would like to not see firearms there. Now they actually came out with an article and said there was a restriction. They were restricting any type of weapons in the building, and that's concerning to me. First of all, for numerous reasons. First of all, they just put a bullseye on themselves. In the day and age where even you look around this area, where I have, and Forrest has seen it too, where you got groups of people from different churches, okay, coming and getting trained and certified and actually having security and putting security together. Then you have the LDS Church, who has no security at their buildings. And now they've just announced that they're not going to allow anyone to legally, conceal carry their firearms there. I can go down, and think there's never been a negligent discharge. There's never been, anything like that, an accident happen at an LDS church. But I can think of numerous times where someone has showed up, walked in to the middle of their chapel and shot someone and left. I mean, numerous occasions that's happened. And that's just happened within the last 3 or 4 years. What really concerns me is that you have the church, who is kind of almost, to a certain extent, now modeling themselves after the federal government to a certain extent. They're saying, hey, look, you guys can't carry. We don't want you to carry. But you know what? We're the higher ups, and we're going to walk around with armed security. In fact, we're going to take the money that you donate in tithing and different things like that. You're going to take that money, and we're going to build this huge multi-million-dollar training facility in Utah, so we can train our armed security on tactical response and how to shoot and all this other stuff. Well, you know what? That armed security, that's great for them, but that's them. That's not at each individual church building. I have a lot of people say that we'll just carry anyway. Well, to be honest with you, I probably will, and I know a lot of people will just carry anyway. But it's the fact that the church is actually making those choices. More and more, I think you see a lot of this, the leadership nowadays is they're leaning kind of left, and it's just happened kind of recently, and it's just, I don't know, it just really bothers me. It really kind of upsets me.
Well, what's going on is the really disturbing part is if they're making a blanket policy because they've got a knucklehead, all they have to do is go to that individual and say, right, we don't want you carrying because you can't be responsible, right, and you don't have the right demeanor, in our opinion. That's fine.
Sure.
But to come up with a blanket policy and say, members of church can't defend themselves, however, we're going to spend millions of dollars so we can train guys to protect us.
Elitist attitudes right there.
Yeah. You can't carry, but we're going to pay people to carry around us, and we're going to use tithing payers' money to do it.
Federal government. That's it.
I mean, it's just like our politicians. We don't want you to have guns. However, we're going to use your tax dollars to defend us. We're going to pay guys to walk around with guns to protect us, but you guys are on your own.
It's not that we don't like guns. We just don't like you having guns.
Yep.
And that's a crazy thing to think about.
I was in a Protestant church once this past winter, and I can remember seeing a fellow come in with his family, and he was open carrying a revolver, and a big revolver. And my first thought was, well, nobody's going to mess with anybody in this church.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's part of the attitude that gets guns banned is like, you're in church, there's no need to open carry a big gun, and I mean, concealed carry, right? There's times that are appropriate and there's times that aren't.
In our church, I've never seen anyone, and I've been in many different ward buildings, all over the country. I've never seen anyone actually open carry at church. They've carried, you carry concealed, you get the proper holster. No one will even, you got your dress shirt on, you got your tie, you got your suit coat. No one's going to see it anyway. And from the article I read, a lot of this came out in reaction to Texas and their new, carry laws and stuff like that. But I just think they just took the opportunity to go ahead and say no guns allowed anywhere. And if we find out you have one, we're going to read you this statement and then we're going to ask you to leave. Well, yeah, you know what? If you ask me to leave, I'm probably not going to come back. And take that as a threat or not, I don't know. But I mean, I'm not going to come back. I'm not. I'm at church. Some people say, well, you're at church, you're doing the right. God shall protect you. Well, then that's good enough for the higher ups as well. They can just go ahead and get rid of their security and spend my tithing money on something else.
It's it's a tough thing. I mean, people in the most part carry responsibly. I don't think there's been a problem. If there is an individual knucklehead that is pulling his gun out and showing it to everybody and being irresponsible and doesn't have the right demeanor, you simply go to that person and say, look,
Right.
you're a threat to the congregation. You can't carry responsibly. Either go take some classes and get some certification and then show a different demeanor, or don't carry here. But you don't then tell the rest of the congregation, you guys can't carry because we don't feel like you're, for whatever reason. That's just not right to disarm the general populace, but then spend millions of dollars to defend yourself.
No, back here when the pioneers and everything came over and they would settle these areas. I mean, firearms had a big part in that. I mean, that's part of our history. It's part of our culture. And now you're going to tell me I can't have them on.
The wolves. I guess the wolves are back, but the wolves aren't wandering the farm fields like they were
Right.
then. The wolves are in their mom's basement plotting. And you don't know when they're going to show up. Then they're going to look for, there's a group of people, and they've been forced to be disarmed, and we're all herded into one building.
Let's go.
That's a great opportunity for them.
We got a break coming up. More with the Gun Guys on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. We're at 66. Bill Colley, too, on News Radio 1310 KLIX on Magic Valley this morning. Wanted to point out we're talking firearms. We've got in studio with us Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. We're at 66. It's 8:34. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. Telephone number, I say that because I don't know what's going to come in, 208-736-0300. We'll take silence as meaning that a lot of people are in agreement with you.
I've got your back, Bill.
I would encourage, if you guys got an opinion on that, being able to carry in your church concealed and responsibly, what your thoughts are on that. I mean, and in sharp contrast to that, this last weekend, I had 11 members of a specific congregation. I won't out them because I think what they're doing is great. They've come out to Shaw's 4 or 5 times, and I think they've actually been to Todd before too. And they're spending money and they're spending time to be proficient and safe carriers.
Uh-huh.
And I applaud that church for allowing them to do that.
Well, you got a caller, and caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm also a member of the LDS Church, and I'm definitely concerned about this coming out. We are promoted to bring people in that are in need, and some of them, I don't mean this to be offensive, kind of are a little bit sketchy. I mean, they say if the back of your church doesn't smell like smoke, you're doing something wrong.
And I believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that too. I don't agree with this. And there are definitely sketchy people, like I said, and I'm comfortable. My husband carries, and I'm comfortable with that. It makes me at ease. He's protecting my family. And I don't know what I'm going to do when they ask him to not carry.
Now, I love this call, and I love that you're passionate about it enough to speak up. But, my concern is we are responsible for our own individual safety. We're responsible for doing our part. And what really bothers me about this is the fact that the tithing money is being spent to build this multi-million-dollar training facility to train guards for the upper echelon in the church, but yet they're at the same time they're doing that, they're telling the general populace of the church, you can't carry. You're just sheep in a pen waiting for a maniac to do something stupid. I mean, what's your thought on that?
You know, I really, this is the first time I've actually heard about it. I agree with what Todd's saying too, that you can't expect us to be, we're like fish in a barrel essentially in that aspect. I mean, they have those door stops. My husband showed this to me when we cleaned the church. So, those stick door stops, those blocks?
Mm-hmm.
He showed that to me. He says, I hate these. He shut the door, and if you stick that in on the outside, there's nothing you can do. One person takes one person to stick that in, and we are literally fish in a barrel. He goes, I hate those. They need to make, this is not common sense. And I don't know. I don't agree with any of it. And hearing about the training facility, yeah, my tithing money that it's going towards that, I wish that if they're going to disarm us as members, they need security as well. We need security in our church. We're the only ones, like Todd said, we don't have any security at our church. And if you're going to disarm the members, you need to do something to replace it then. Well, I don't agree.
No, and you look at churches, and you're exactly right. I mean, many times I've been at church and I've had, people coming off the street, they need some help, they're asking questions, you got new people that you're bringing, and I understand all that, but you don't know where they come from. You don't know what's going on. Sometimes you have a wife that is there and has brought kids, and you get a disgruntled, dad or ex that shows up and they want to take the kids. You don't know what's going to happen. I've heard stories. I've lived in multiple different states where I've attended church, and I've heard stories of people being unhappy, and they go into the office with one of the leaders to talk, and the next thing you know, that leader's getting the tar beat out of him by whoever showed up and is upset, and there's no one there to defend herself. You take away all the firearms, that opens us up. That puts a huge target. And if you think about our buildings and the way they're set up, they are not set up very good.
And I think that's interesting that the church has stated several times that the Constitution is a sacred document.
Well, they're taking our right.
But yet, at the same time, they're claiming it's a sacred document. They're saying it's all sacred except for this Second Amendment part, and we're not going to allow you to exercise that. That's where my beef is.
And that's only sacred for the upper echelon, the leadership.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank our caller for chiming in, and we'll get back to more of your telephone calls. It's getting really close to the break. That's coming up in just under a minute, and we'll get some more opinions on this too as well. And we'll talk a little bit about Patriot Defense in Washington Street Pawn and exactly what they do. And of course, joining us in studio, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn and Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. Bill Colley with you too on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. We're at 66, on our way probably into the low 90s today. And if you're going to the fair this weekend, could be by Sunday in the upper 90s. That's where you wear the hat, the big broad-brimmed hat when you're at the fair. And by the way, the fair will allow you to, but you don't want to be ostentatious about it again there either. You can't carry while you're at the fair, just to let you know. Before we get back to the telephones on this topic, and we'll refresh your mind to what the topic was in just a moment, but wanted to mention the gun guys in studio, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense and Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, and Bill Colley handling the telephones this morning. We're at 66 on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. But let's talk a little bit before we move along about your businesses. And Washington Street Pawn, as Forrest said, has been very busy. Of course, back to school started a lot of that, and then the fair comes along and you get busy too.
People need corn dog money.
Oh yeah, we've been loaning a lot of money. We if you're a small business or an individual and you've run across some unexpected expenses and you need money today, we can help you. And that's really what we're not designed for long-term loans because of the interest rate, but for a short-term loan just to get that power bill paid or to get enough gas in your car to get the gas money to get to payday, we can help you out with that. We do a lot of large loans. So, whatever your situation is, we can help you out. As far as buying things, man, we got a lot of selection right now. We got a lot of shotguns. If you're looking for a shotgun for hunting season for yourself, for your kids, maybe a new hunter, I've got everything from $115 on up in shotguns. I've got a lot of really nice hunting rifles and a lot of different calibers. Handguns, we've got plenty. And if you don't see it on the shelf, we can order anything new. And all of our new guns come with a lifetime free replacement warranty. So if the gun ever breaks, you can bring it back. We'll get you a brand new gun to replace it. We do trades. So if you've got some guns and you're like, man, I don't shoot these anymore, I'd really like just to get one other gun and trade 2 for 1 or 3 for 1 and then get some cash on top, come see me. We do trades as well. And literally, we got laptops. We got a ton of tools right now. Come see us. We'll take really good care of you.
Todd.
Yeah, Patriot Defense. We specialize in all gun safety, courses, handgun instruction. We our main classes are the Idaho Enhanced Permit classes, and I've got another one coming up on September 21st, and I've got plenty of room in there, and I'll have my date for October really soon. If you guys have any questions, you want to get signed up for that, or if you want just some private classes that I can put together, kind of a custom class just for you, let me know. You can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. Find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. Don't forget the Patriot Defense podcast. You can find it on Spotify and iTunes, and I guarantee you the one I'm doing Saturday evening will be a good one.
We've got a caller looking to join us, and the subject is that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is this official now, this policy?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it's official.
No firearms inside churches, and we're taking some calls on that. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. What is the range on a 38 caliber snake shot?
Snap cap?
What is the range on a 38 caliber snake shot?
Snake shot.
Snake shot on a human, probably 2 feet. I mean, any more distance than that, and it would be completely ineffective. I mean, somebody with a Carhartt jacket at probably 10 yards, I don't know that it would penetrate that, but
That should answer the question.
Yep.
We've got another caller with us. Let's see, line 2. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Morning, guys. I got a couple questions for you. First, are you guys reading a publication or something that this LDS training range is going to be built with tithing funds, or is that just a general assumption? I was under the impression that the church has got very strict guidelines of what they can use tithing funds for,
they're
and
built.
they also have multiple sources of income.
Well, if they're a nonprofit, I don't know that they can. I mean, I know they have investments in Coca-Cola, but you have to realize all those investments were purchased with tithing money because the church started out with no money. Coke didn't give them a bunch of stock.
But that's where I'm getting at. Is that something? I mean, are you guys reading a publication from the church that we're using tithing funds for this, or is that a general assumption? Question two.
We just read a publication that they are building this facility and they're paying armed security. They're training their armed security for the upper echelon of the church and the church.
That's understandable. Question two is with the way the liberal left has made America, and you can sue anybody for anything. Has anybody thought to think that this is maybe just a step to try to take some of the liability off the church to prevent lawsuits when somebody does get shot in the church? Well, it happens in every church. There's several LDS buildings that have been shot up in the last couple of years.
But not by the parishioners. They were shot up by someone. And if there would have been people in the churches of that time, just like there was people in the church in North Carolina and several other places, they all would have been dead because they would have been forced to just stand there and take it because they can't carry.
And just because you proclaim that you can't carry a firearm there, we all know this. Does it mean that the bad guy still isn't going to walk in with a firearm and shoot it up? And have we thought too have we thought about the members that maybe get shot up and the lawsuits that they may file?
Well, exactly. But the other point I'm going to bring up is if somebody's truly concealed carrying, how is anybody ever going to know? Well, it's these yahoos that go in there and want to open carry to prove a point, just like out in public anywhere, that raise these issues and bring these issues up.
But it's like punishing all the children when one child does something. You say, okay, you're all in timeout. So effectively, they've put the entire populace of the church in timeout because maybe somebody in St. George, Utah, is a knucklehead and carries his gun and doesn't act responsibly. So we're saying, okay, so now no one can.
And now they've come out and they've actually let everybody know that, hey, look, this is supposed to be a gun-free, a weapon-free zone, just like the schools, and they're the ones that get shot up. Just like everywhere else that you can't have firearms, and those are the places that get shot up. They've essentially put a giant bullseye on every church building around.
one thing they didn't do though, the publication they came out with was lethal weapons. They did not define what a lethal weapon was.
Okay, so a knife is a lethal weapon. A fork is a lethal weapon.
Right.
A hammer is a lethal weapon. So you can carry bear spray, and when that guy's standing across the room with an AR, you can shoot it in your own eyes so you don't see it coming. I mean, I'm not trying to be ornery. I'm just saying that the church has forever held up that the Constitution is a sacred document. The Second Amendment is one of the founding principles of that document. So at what point do they say, you know what, we don't want people talking either? I mean, it's the same thing we're dealing with the federal government, is once your Second Amendment right's gone, there goes your first, there goes the rest of them.
Yep.
So that's my concern.
We got another caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Good morning. Regarding the policy, Heber C. Kimball, an early leader of the church, he had a couple of 6 guns by his pillow on his bed, and he says, really seriously, the devil is scared of guns. He says.
Well, I would believe that. I just this policy completely came out of left field,
and it just baffles me. I don't think that the church leadership should be kind of modeling itself after the federal government. We talk about this all the time. We talk about them trying to take our guns, trying to restrict us, creating gun-free zones. Gun-free zones are nothing but government and state-sponsored and now church-sponsored killing fields. That's all they are. And now the church is coming out and saying and doing the exact same thing. I just don't understand it.
I want to thank the caller. I got a text message. Somebody was telling me they couldn't call in because they're out in the desert, and they weren't sure that they'd get a good solid phone call in. But says, here's an idea: build a training center, but then invite membership to come train, and then you could just give someone a certificate, and then they could carry inside the chapel.
Yeah, or just accept someone's concealed weapons permit. Shows they've been through training, and
I'm going to tell you right now that people are going to carry regardless of what they said. And like the other gentleman who called said, concealed means concealed, but it's the whole idea of it. Because there's a good portion that are going to leave.
And the other portion of that is now the members of the church, in order to defend themselves, are going to have to go against the church.
Yeah. Go against something they believe in.
So then again, what happens now to them that when they go to that bishop's interview and they have to lie when they're asked, are you obeying the church principles? Well, no, I'm not, because I'm concealed carrying at church, even though you've told me not to. I mean, this puts the membership in a tough spot. Like, we're talking about, the church teaches about individual responsibility and take care of yourselves
and your family
and those around you, your neighbors.
Yep.
And then at the same time, they're saying, well, no, you can't defend your family. And the other thing is they've just put a big target on all the churches because these crazies look for stuff like that. They love gun-free zones. 90% of mass shootings happen in gun-free zones.
Well, we've got a lot of churches, I think, that have some denominations have gone and said, we don't want firearms. A lot of them have been silent on it, figuring, hey, we know we're not going to make an official policy one way or another. Some of the larger mainline liberal denominations obviously have policies in place. But what I have noticed is, for the most part, most churches have been somewhat quiet, kind of acknowledging that, we're not going to make a public statement because we don't want to alarm anybody that somebody might be carrying, but we feel comfortable if somebody is.
And then some of them have actually put together teams and have a plan, and they've talked to law enforcement, and they know how to work it all out, and they spent lots of money, training up, those who are interested in their congregation to help protect the congregation on Sunday church services, and not just the upper leadership, but the actual building. And they've done some great things.
And I would say this: if you have, let's say you have 5 kids. And they're all driving, and one of your kids continually gets speeding tickets, would you then say, okay, none of you kids can drive because Billy here can't drive responsibly? You wouldn't do that. You would say, Billy, guess who's walking to school? Yeah. You. But, I'm sure that there's some people who strap on the biggest gun they can find or try to carry their AR-15 in church because, you know, with rights come responsibility. So yes, you need to be responsible if you're going to carry at church. You need to have a good holster. You need to be proficient with your firearm. But the church should address those individuals individually. If they can't show the right demeanor, if they can't show the proper attitude, you can go to them and say, look, you're putting the rest of our parishioners at work because you're irresponsible, or at risk because you're putting the rest of our parishioners at risk. So we're going to have to ask you to leave or not carry. But you don't punish millions of people because 2 people can't do it right.
Well, I was going to ask a question, but I'll leave that up to our caller. We've got a caller looking to join us. We'll get to the caller instead. Caller, you're up next. It's 8:55 on KLIX.
Hey, Bill, can we get a copy of today's conversation recorded so that we could have it?
That's a good question. I don't know that it'll be done anytime soon because I've got to record 2 senators after the show, write 2 stories for the website, and then go do a live show tonight, and then I'm away for 10 days.
But KLIX for different show, different times for the public to buy that show.
Well, that'd be interesting. That's a question I've never faced. I'll have to consider that one. Apparently, you guys have struck a nerve today.
Yeah. So if it's the church conversation and the LDS Church and the no firearms policy that interests you, I'm going to do a plug for my podcast. Check out the podcast because you can actually download that, keep that on your phone, and you can share that with whoever you want. And I guarantee you it's going to get a lot more interesting.
I bet a lot of people are going to be visiting with Forrest over the next week, and this is going to be a topic.
Well, I'm not. People get things twisted. No one here is attacking the LDS Church.
No.
They're attacking the policy that they've instituted that you can't, the individuals cannot conceal carry to defend themselves, their family, and their neighbors. Okay? Nobody's saying that the LDS Church is bad, and I think that's what happens in politics and in a lot of things. People get so sensitive about one thing that they love the church, so now they're like, they can do no wrong.
Right.
Right? The LDS Church has changed hundreds of policies. They've made a policy, a few years later they've changed it. It's happened a ton of times. Think of the recent policy they had where the children of LGBT people can't be baptized. Guess what policy they changed 2 years later?
Right.
Happens all the time, right? So it's not, nobody's attacking the church. What they're saying is
this policy could change again.
This policy could absolutely change again. So don't get upset and feel like attacking the church. As far as the statement that the church is using tax or tithing money to build this facility, maybe a big donor donated his own money to build it. And that might be the case.
Right.
So that's something that needs some clarification. It's still the fact that the leadership is okay with people with guns around them to protect them. However, they're not okay with that with the everyday parishioners. It's kind of that elitist attitude.
I was just going to say that. It's the elitist attitude that has me. If it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for us. Because without congregation, without people in the church buildings, guess what? There would be no church.
I had a deacon tell me at a Roman Catholic church one time many years ago, and he said, the institution of the church is perfect. He said, it's the men who run it that are imperfect beings. So and
if it was perfect, there would be no need for a church.
Right. And there'd be no need for firearms.
Yep.
So we've got to keep that in mind.
You know, I named my my 5-year-old son, my youngest boy, his middle name is Porter. I named him after a great figure in our church history by the name of Porter Rockwell. And he was actual bodyguard to one of the prophets early on. And supposedly he had 2 handguns that he actually cut the barrels down. And rumor has it he was the first one really kind of brought in concealed carry. I'm a little disappointed now.
I want to thank the gun guys today. Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pond and Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. One more hour of Magic Valley this morning is still ahead. We're at 67, and the news is coming up next.